Shubhad Paramahamsa Pri Rajgacharya Stotra Satya Sri Simad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhagavad Charanarvana Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Skandiviti, Founder Acharya, Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Namasarya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtana Ki, Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki, Jani Thakur Pimanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. The pranam is better, but still not to the mark. Agyanatimirandasya Gyaranjana Shalakaya Takshurindritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Parakamanam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Pranami Haripriye Vanchakata Durudhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyayavasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances to Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Nanyam Swasthaya Namaha. They want to hear the Bhagavatam. This Srimad-Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all Perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Sri Advaita Gadadhara,
Sri Advaita Gadadhar,
Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya,
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 Om Surabhyaya Namaha,
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 Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukam karoti vachanam pangum nagayate girim yatkripat mahamandre Sridham Janataram, yatkripat mahamandre Sridham Janataram. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. We continue 15th chapter of the 7th Canto, chapter entitled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. And today we're doing text number 60.
7.
Correct. 6, 7. Etair
Etai
Anyaish
Anai
Cha
Cha
Vedok Tair
Vedokter
Vartamanah
Vartamanah
Swah
Swa
Karmabhi
Karmabhi
Grihe
Grihe
Api
Api
Asya
Asya
Gatim
Gatim
Yayad
Yayat
Rajam
Rajam
Tad
Tad
Bhakti
Bhakti
Bhan
Bhan
Nara
Nara
Etairanyayischa Vedoktair
Etairanyascha Vedokter
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayad
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Rajam Tad Bhakti Bhan Nara
Rajam Tad Bhakti Bhandara
Etairanyayischa Vedoktair
Etairanyascha Vedokter
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayad
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Rajam Stad Bhakti Bhan Naraha
Rajam Tad Bhakti Bhandara
Etairanyayischa Vedoktair
Etairanyascha Vedokter
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayad
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Rajam Stad Bhakti Bhan Naraha
Rajam Tad Bhakti Bhandara
Etairanyascha Vedoktair
Etairanyascha Vedokter
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Rajam Stad Bhakti Bhandara
Rajam Tad Bhakti Bhandara Etairanyascha Vedokter
Etairanyascha Vedoktair
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Vartamana Swakarmabhi
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Grihepyasya Gatim Yayat
Rajam Tad Bhakti Bhandara
Rajam Stad Bhakti Bhan Naraha Etai by these ways
by these ways
Anyay
Anyay
by other ways
by other ways
Cha
Cha
and
and
Veda Uktai
Vedoktai
as directed
as directed
in the Vedic literatures.
in the Vedic literatures.
Vartamana,
Vartamana,
abiding,
abiding,
Swakarmabhihi,
Karmadihi,
by one's occupational duties.
by one's occupational duties.
Grihe,
Grihe,
Api,
grihe api,
Grihe api,
even at home.
even at home.
Asya,
Asya,
of Lord Krishna.
of Lord Krishna.
Gatim,
Gatim,
destination.
Destination.
Yayat,
Yayat,
can reach.
can reach.
Rajan,
Rajan,
O king.
O king.
Tat bhakti bhak,
Tat Bhakti Bhak,
who renders devotional service
Who render devotional service
unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
unto the Supreme Personality of
Naraha.
God. Nara,
Any person.
any person.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
O King, one should perform his occupational duties according to these instructions as well as other instructions given in the Vedic literature, just to remain a devotee of Lord Krishna. Thus, even while at home, one will be able to reach the destination. Kindly repeat after me. O King,
O King,
one can perform,
One should perform.
one should perform
One should perform
his occupational duties
his occupational duties
according to these instructions,
according to these instructions,
as well as other instructions
as well as other instructions
given in the Vedic literature,
given in the Vedic literature,
just to remain
just to remain
a devotee of Lord Krishna.
the devotee of Lord Krishna.
Thus,
Thus,
even while at home,
even while at home,
one will be able
one will be able
to reach the destination.
to reach the destination.
I think many parents of devotees would love to hear this verse. Purport. The ultimate goal of life is Vishnu, Krishna. And therefore, either by Vedic regulative principles or by materialistic activities, if one tries to reach the destination of Krishna, that is the perfection of life. Krishna should be the target. Everyone should try to reach Krishna from any position of life. Krishna accepts service from anyone. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:32, Mam hi partha vipasritya
Mam viparta vipashritya
yepi syu papayo nayah
yepi shivapayonaha
striyo vaishas tatha shudras
striyo vaishyas tata shudras
tepi yanti param gatim.
tepi yanti param gatim.
Translation. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. It does not matter what one's position is. If one aims at reaching Krishna by performing his occupational duty under the direction of the spiritual master, his life is successful. It is not that only sannyasis, vanaprasthas and brahmacharis can reach Krishna. A grihastha, a householder can also reach Krishna, provided he becomes a pure devotee without material desires. An example of this is cited in the next verse. Translation again. O king, one should perform his occupational duties according to those instructions, as well as other instructions given in the Vedic literature, just to remain a devotee of Lord Krishna. Thus, even while at home, one will be able to reach the destination. Swakarma bhi, one's occupational duties. This is mentioned also in the Bhagavad Gita, how it's part of Jagya. Jagya means offering. Jagya means sacrifice. The more we understand that this body does not belong to us, the material nature, the material world also is not our property, that everything belongs to Krishna, then we will begin to utilize everything in Krishna's service. We will understand that the house or home that we have is not our home, and we will demonstrate that by establishing officially the Arsha Vigraha form of the Lord at home. Hare Krishna. Jai. Finding our way. Hare Krishna. So occupational duties, very important subject matter. We can just read the verse again for those who are coming late for about oops. We should be happy that some are coming for Bhagavatam class. So this is text 67, Narada Muni giving very important instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So here he mentions, O king, one should perform his occupational duties according to these instructions. And of course he's already given so many instructions, as well as other instructions given in the Vedic literature, just to remain a devotee of Lord Krishna. Thus, even while at home, one will be able to reach the destination. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Mam hi partha yapasritya epishu papayoneya. Regardless of one's material position, regardless of where one may be, anyone who is fortunate to come in contact with this knowledge of Krishna consciousness can take up to the process, and even what we call ordinary devotee. In our understanding, as given by Srila Prabhupada, of Daiva Varnasrama, even someone who is so-called Shudra in terms of occupation, there are two things actually. Krishna speaks about Varna, based on guna and karma. So guna, very important clarification, very, very important distinction to understand, and often we don't give it sufficient attention. Guna and karma is there for the non-devotee, and guna and karma is there for the devotee. For the non-devotee, guna and karma means according to the modes of material nature and according to what is prescribed in the Shastra, he should follow. That is called and referred to in the Bhagavad Gita as karma. Karma, generally a fruit of activities, prescribed duties, which will gradually elevate one from the lower modes of nature to the higher mode of nature, to the mode of goodness. For those who are under the modes of material nature and who have yet not been so fortunate to know about bhakti. So guna karma for the non-devotees, means following the prescribed rules and regulations in the Shastra. And guna and karma for devotee means also following, for example, the prescribed regulations that are there in the Shastra, including Varna and Asrama. But the guna means quality for a devotee will be to, at the perfectional stage, at the advanced stage, to rise above the gunas, isn't it? Although the karma externally, karma means activity, guna and karma, although externally the activity may be the same. Just like I always comes to mind how many years back there was a Back to Godhead magazine article about one of Prabhupada's disciples who was, fully clean shaved, wearing nice tilak. He was a taxi driver, yellow cab in Los Angeles. And but whoever walked into his taxi came out a different person. Because his taxi was like a temple. And he would have all books, it was his occupation, he was, before he came to Krishna consciousness, probably he was a taxi driver. And so he just dovetailed that propensity, and he would preach to people, and they would take books, he would have Prabhupada's bhajans, nobody would know, right? It's a yellow cab, it's a taxi. So that means that within, in our understanding of Daiva Varnasrama, that means even someone who is performing the activity of Shudra, means worker, manual kind of activity, can become a pure devotee. Whereas in the system that doesn't have a Krishna in the center, then generally a Shudra remains on a lower consciousness. Yeah. Although he is encouraged also by the various injunctions in the Shastra to make progress. So the main point being made here is that Shastras are there for guiding humanity. Vedic literatures are given to mankind as like a guide manual, isn't it? Anything that one buys, if you buy a car or whatever, or a machine, there's a guide manual. So Vedic literatures are therefore essential, and they need to be followed, but under the guidance of proper authorized persons. Those who are following Vedic literatures, and of course we have the system of Guru Parampara, which is there. So prescribed duties, when one does not follow prescribed duties, as we read from Bhagavatam, then this creates a situation of ugra karma, because we cannot be or live without activity, isn't it? The whole world is active. Everyone is doing something or other. But those who are not in proper consciousness, means those who are not devotees, they are, as we come to know from Bhagavatam, they are actually forced to act in different ways forced by the modes of material nature. They are forced to live out their karma, and by not being Krishna conscious, by not having come in contact with this knowledge, they continue to create more and more karmic reaction also. In other words, the condition or the situation of someone who is not a devotee, of someone who is not in knowledge, is like very gloomy, because it's like he's, that's why the expression Nitya Baddha, there's Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. If we are not in the line of the Nitya Muktas, if we're not taken up the process of spiritual process, and of course especially the path of bhakti, which awards actual liberation, then we are Nitya Baddha, we are eternally conditioned. Actually, one technically does not remain eternally conditioned, but one who will not come in contact, or one who does not come in contact with this knowledge, does actually remain eternally conditioned. But at some point, due to some special mercy of Vaishnavas, any person, which is what is being conveyed here, regardless of one's position and background, can take to the process and become liberated. Same instruction given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Grihe tako, bani tako, sada, hari bole tako. Everyone, whether one is grihe, in home, or vani, in the forest, because traditionally, as we hear in the story of Dhruva Maharaj, this was Dhruva Maharaj's mother's understanding that sadhus, spiritual persons, they live in the forest. And it was like that also. We hear about what is it? Forest University. Actually, we're planning to have a forest university here. In the Vana, in the Mango Grove Vana forest. Yeah. So it means that there is hope for everyone, and anyone, even by remaining at home, by taking up to the process under proper guidance. So main thing here is occupational duty. And one of the very unfortunate conditions of modern day society, and I would say also unfortunate within our context as devotees also, it's a subject matter that we have one grihastha background here. I'm saying that the point I want to make is that most of our grihasthas don't really understand what is the meaning of occupational duty. Would you agree? Huh?
Nobody knows.
Huh?
Nobody knows.
No one knows.
Yeah. Don't know what exactly it means.
So can you explain what it is? In a nutshell. Everyone, I mean, Prabhupada makes the point, it's not only sannyasis or brahmacharis or those taking to vanaprastha who can become liberated. Anyone. But because the majority of individuals in society, they are grihasthas, isn't it? And when the majority of people in society don't know what their occupational duty is, then that's a problem.
Everyone will have their own definition.
Everyone will have their own definition. This is a symptom of Kali Yuga. Yes. Prabhupada gives the example that of the compass. Compass, everyone knows what a compass is. You put the compass on one point, you make a circle. But if everyone chooses a different point, all the circles clash. So our method, our Krishna conscious method, is that we put the center, we put our compass point at the same place. Then everything becomes harmonized. Then we get a perfect circle. Everyone is engaged has the same understanding. So yes, so therefore it is therefore most important, I would say, especially in the context of how the world has evolved, or rather devolved. There's evolution and devolution. The world has degraded. Devolved means degraded. The world has degraded extremely from what even a few decades ago. Prabhupada mentions how previously in villages people would never buy locks. They would never lock their door. Lock. Because nobody was, no one was a thief. And of course, people in villages, they were very, simple, and there was really nothing to steal. Maybe some of the Vaishyas, some of the Zamindars, maybe they had things that could be stolen. Otherwise, common, ordinary. So to understand about prescribed duties for the general society is very important. And for our own ISKCON devotees is also very important. And it's a major point of, I would say, misunderstanding. It's like we have this kind of utopian idea that everyone will fully dedicate themselves for preaching the mission. Of course, the goal is everyone should, to some extent, preach Krishna consciousness. But when you're a householder, you have some responsibilities at home with the children, etc., like that. And some things you can do. But generally, preaching activities are those of sannyasis, brahmacharis, those in vanaprastha. Of course, there is no bar, and as a matter of fact, our line, our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya line, from the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has many wonderful examples of householders who are very active in preaching also. But the idea is that we just like one time many years back, possibly in Los Angeles, one mother, one devotee mother, she very much liked to do service to the deities, in the morning, and as a pujari, and but she had a small baby, and you just can't bring your baby on the altar. So she would leave her baby somewhat unattended, And naturally what happens when babies are unattended? They cry. So Prabhupada came to know about this, or he might have observed it himself, because Prabhupada, there are not too many things. Prabhupada did not, he saw everything. He observed everything. Then this was very significant, but he ended up personally instructing his disciple, this Mataji. For you, as a mother, looking after your baby is more important than deity worship. Your deity is your baby, is your child. This is your duty and responsibility. So we have to be intelligent. Of course, the problem is that in Kali Yuga we are missing somewhat on that. Therefore, we need to take guidance from senior Vaishnavas. We need to take guidance. We need to hear from Shastra, etc. So prescribed duties, Prabhupada points out in many other places how this is the unfortunate condition of the state of affairs in the world today. People have forgotten. And this is most important for us to understand what are some duties, what are prescribed duties for different classes of people. And without getting too much in the subject matter, but what are prescribed duties for men and what are prescribed duties for women. The Shastra is very clearly defining these things. Whereas, as we know, in modern day society, we are promoting full-on, equality, no difference between anyone. What they call it, unisex. They have these, what do you call them? Similar to barber shops. Saloon. Yeah. Well, there's different kinds of saloon. There's the drinking, the drinking saloon. But there's hairdressers, whatever. And it's like somebody might walk out of there. You won't really know if it's a man or a woman, right? And it's purposely done like that also. I mean, that's the situation has become so demoniac. Like in America, it has come to the point where in schools, you won't believe this. In some schools, not all the schools, but that's kind of like gradually infiltrating. And of course, those who are a little bit more intelligent are quite alarmed about this. But in some schools, they are teaching to young boys and girls that you can choose your sex.
Not only that, Guru Maharaj, actually...
not only that.
Actually, even if they have to take a paracetamol, even if children have to take a paracetamol, initially they have to consult, the school has to consult the parents.
Even if they have to take?
A paracetamol tablet.
A tablet?
They have to consult the parents and then provide the children.
Yeah.
But now, just
consent of parents is not necessary.
Just for a small, no, not for that, Guru Maharaj. Just for a small kid who is 8 or 9 years old, if he says, I want, hormone boosters and other kinds of drugs, so they can choose their gender, they are providing it without the consent of parents. And recently,
okay. Yeah, I mean, just the very idea or notion that these things are being are existing and being promoted also, and many people are totally in agreement with it, should be for us a sign and a clear sign and clear indication that things are like out of control. It's totally demoniac. So therefore, when we don't follow Shastra, when we don't know about Shastra, naturally we will not follow because we don't know, then these kind of scenarios will be created, and it brings about, practically speaking, irreparable, irreversible changes. Because once you, it's like, once you voluntarily decide to, we just lost it. Once you voluntarily decide, but we haven't. For example, to take poison, once you have actually drunk poison, well, if you've drunk enough poison, you're finished. You can't change that. So all of these anomalies are there due to, ultimately, ignorance, isn't it? Not really knowing how valuable and important is the human form of life, and what is the primary goal and purpose. And therefore, when we as devotees are lacking, it's very important, when we as devotees are lacking in proper understanding of our own Shastra, that's very dangerous. Because we end up coming to some conclusion or even legislation that will not be based on Shastra. So therefore the importance of, Srila Prabhupada's primary goal and purpose in going to the West, as we know, was to establish Brahminical culture. The Brahmanas, there has to be in society, in general society, and there has to be within our own ISKCON society, devotees who are actually Brahmanas, who are actually well versed in the Shastra and who can deliberate, and who should be given the opportunity as well to we know in history, for example, how certain issues, it's natural, some aspects of our philosophy, it's been ongoing for centuries, sometimes are not clear, and it requires, sometimes it will take many years, even sometimes centuries, for some aspect to become more clearly understood. So anyways, Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains how he's kind of like introducing the next verse. He mentions how there's an example of what is being explained here. At the very end of the purport, he mentions a grihastha householder can also reach Krishna provided he becomes a pure devotee without material desires. An example of this is cited in the next verse. We're going to read the next verse, which is text 68. Yata hi yuyam nripadeva dusyajad.
Yatha hi yuyam nripadeva dusyaya.
Apad ganad uttarat mana. Apad ganad uttaratat mana prabhu.
Apad ganad uttarat mana prabhu.
Yat pada pankeruha sevaya bhavan.
Yat pada pankeruha sevaya bhavan.
Aharasin nirdita dig gaja kratun.
Aharasin nirdita dig gaja kratun.
Translation: O King Yudhisthira, because of your service to the Supreme Lord, all of you Pandavas defeated the greatest dangers posed by numerous kings and demigods. By serving the lotus feet of Krishna, you conquered great enemies who were like elephants, and thus you collected ingredients for sacrifice. By his grace, may you be delivered from material involvement. So he cites, Narada Muni cites the Pandavas as, because they were grihasthas, as example. And Prabhupada gives a further explanation here in the purport. Placing himself as an ordinary householder, Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired from Narada Muni how a griha mudhadhi, that's how he going back to 5 chapters before, he introduced them. I am a griha mudadhi, a person who is entangled in householder life, and who thus continues to remain a fool. How such a person can be delivered? Narada Muni encouraged Maharaj Yudhisthira by saying, you are already on the safe side because you, along with your entire family, have become a pure devotee of Krishna. By Krishna's grace, the Pandavas conquered in the battle of Kurukshetra and were saved from many dangers posed not only by kings but sometimes even by the demigods. Thus, they are a practical example of how to live in security and safety by the grace of Krishna. Everyone should follow the example of the Pandavas, who showed how to be saved by the grace of Krishna. Our Krishna consciousness movement is intended to teach how everyone can live peacefully in this material world and at the end of life return home back to Godhead. In the material world, there are always dangers at every step. Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. Nonetheless, if one takes shelter of Krishna without hesitation and keeps under the shelter of Krishna, he can easily cross the ocean of nescience. Samasrita ye pada pallava plavan mahat padam punya yasho murare. To the devotee, this great ocean of nescience becomes like a puddle of water in the hoof print of a cow. A pure devotee, without embarrassing himself by trying for elevation in so many ways, stays in the safest position as a servant of Krishna, and thus his life is eternally safe without a doubt. So this should serve as a great hope for the majority of our devotees who are Grihasthas. And just to give a little hint, tomorrow will be the few verses where Narada Muni will then reveal or share with Yudhisthira Maharaj, who is a householder, that in the previous kalpa I was in the Gandharva Loka, which is kind of interesting. So any comments or questions on this? Yes.
Please, Maharaj describe the most important duty of Grihastha devotees.
What is the most important duty of Grihastha devotees? To become Krishna conscious. There are many other duties. One of the important duties of Grihasthas is to, actually there are five prescribed, we could say mandatory, in this section of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni, I believe in maybe the third of the 5 chapters on ideal family life, he mentions 5 mandatory activities every day that Grihastha should do, beginning with worshipping the deity. A Grihastha every day should worship. Therefore Prabhupada many times explained how householders should have deity, because in householder life, unless one is Krishna conscious, main attraction is sex life. And even if one is a devotee, that attraction is still there. So therefore, instead of, because when people get married, generally they're focused, on one another. But our process and our formula and our definition for householders is not to be focused on one another, but both to be focused on the lotus feet of Krishna. And therefore, having Archa Vigraha form of the Lord, having a deity at home, helps to reduce that otherwise natural kind of attraction between male and female. So deity worship is the first of the activities that should be done every day for householders. Secondly, the other 4 is a very nice system the other 4 are connected with prasadam. So they should offer prasadam to the deity. They should offer prasadam to sadhus, as Prabhupada's father would do. Every day he would have some sannyasis, sadhus come. And then offering prasadam also to ordinary living entities. That's also mentioned. We should not be neglecting, especially those who are householders, other living entities who are in different forms of life, different species. That's why someone like Shivananda Sen was caring for that dog when they were on their way to Jagannath Puri. And the 5th one is, in addition to giving prasadam to everyone, one should also only take prasadam. This is sometimes a problem for those who are traveling as grihasthas, which is in the modern context of how the situation is. Many of our householders are traveling for work and whatnot. So, but one should avoid taking a food that is not offered to the Lord. Of course, cannot offer as elaborately food when we are outside, and sometimes we have to take in, vegetarian restaurants, for example. I mean, even one time Prabhupada, in the early days, when he was invited along with, these were like new devotees, first time coming to India, and so people from India know that we should invite sadhus. So Prabhupada naturally was invited so many times, and they would serve prasadam. Well, they would serve, very often they would have altar at home, but not always. And anyways, one time when they were eating, often they would take with Prabhupada also, they would serve, they would give a nice place to Srila Prabhupada, all the other devotees would be sitting and they would serve them. And one devotee, as he was taking prasadam, he noticed that there were some onions or something, some onion or we don't take onions, right? So he was sitting close to Prabhupada and he turned over and he said, Prabhupada, he whispered to Prabhupada, there's onion, in the food. And Prabhupada turned to him and he told him, just be quiet and eat it. I mean, normally we don't eat onions, but in some circumstances we can be, I mean, if it was something else, that is different. So there's niyam agraha and niyam agraha. Following the rules and regulations too rigidly, or the opposite, not following them at all, right? So finding the proper preaching is important also, if possible, for householders. Begetting Krishna conscious children. Like that. Yeah. You are about to enter householder life. You are about to enter householder life.
Yes, probably.
Yes. I think one of you was mentioning thinking about it, or anyways, yeah. So, I think, yeah, unless there's some other comment or question, we can close this for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakti Hare Krishna.